Welcome to the Go Higher Show, where we are dedicated to higher levels of leadership, purpose, and the power of transformation. We empower and equip leaders to rise, mindsets to transform, and legacies to evolve. Hosted by Mr. Hakim Erwin, author, leadership and public speaking coach, and the Transformational Influencer. Here on the Go Higher Show, we are dedicated to helping individuals transform your mindset, build character and emotional intelligence, develop executive presence, lead with integrity and influence, and prepare for greater assignments. Welcome again to the Go Higher Show. Let's go. You ever notice how everyone wants some level of influence? Everybody wants a platform, and everybody wants to stand before kings. But you see, there are few people who are willing to go through the transformation that's required to handle the room. For example, that room of influence might be considered or otherwise known as fame or popularity. So you may become a role model to people whether you wanted it or not, whether that was your intention or not. So your words begin to carry weight once your number of followers and subscribers begins to increase. Then so does your level of accountability. And again, that's whether you're ready for it or whether you wanted it or not. It just comes with the clicks. Then there's that room of platform, or that platform room, let's call it. Now you have the center stage. You have the spotlight now. Your name is on the marquee, the digital billboard, the thumbnails. It's the John Doe Show or the Jane Doe podcast. People tune in to see and to hear what thus saith you. Now what you going to do? You're going to buckle, you're going to boast, you're going to brag, or be humble. And see, it's hard to be humble when everybody is dapping you up and pumping you up and telling you how much they love you. We love you, right? But then out of the clear blue sky, that hate starts coming in. The cold shoulders, the unsubscribing, all the thumbs down, the dislikes, all that hate. And yes, even the threats. And you be sitting there like, what is this? What did happen? What kind of wahala be this? What did I do? What did I say? What happened? But see, I know some of y'all out there like, that ain't going to happen to me. Okay. All right. We'll see. And now I hope for your sake that it doesn't happen. And then there's the board and the throne room. That's when you're standing before the kings and the queens and the chiefs, the executives, the sponsors, the people who sign the checks, the owners of the tables that you've been working so hard all this time to sit at, to be noticed by. You finally made it now. But then they ask you to sacrifice something that you weren't initially willing to give up, something that you didn't even know you had to give up. And you weren't prepared for this additional level of sacrifice. What you gonna do? But you see, the transformational influencer brings our own chairs to the table. And that just may be offensive and unsettling to a lot of people. And then people begin to lash out. And even in most cases, it's almost always passive aggressively and discreetly or indirectly. But see, they hesitate because you've proven to be a very valuable asset, a low risk with a high potential for reward. You see, the transformational influencer creates our own table. And that, frankly, just pisses a lot of people off. A lot of people get urinated off. But ironically, that is the American dream. That's ownership. So what is the transformational influencer? Well, let me start by defining what it's not. And that's someone who's chasing followers, someone seeking attention, and someone that's interested in building their brand only. Nobody else's, just theirs. But you see, what we are as transformational influencers are individuals that transform ourselves first as a blueprint. For example, I've documented my life's challenges and experiences within several books, now available on Amazon.com. And even this podcast that helps to encourage, inspire, and motivate others on how to avoid certain distractions and pitfalls and how to discipline and focused career or a cleared path for increase. See, that's a blueprint that I've created to share with others. We also influence others through good character and integrity. See, early in my professional speaking career, I used to do a presentation called Tough Rap, building good character integrity. And I had the opportunity to share this in high schools, right? In youth camps and education conferences, etc. And I talked about the importance of being teachable, unique, faithful, forgiving, reliable, and patient through the acronym for Tough Rap, and how that helps one to build good character integrity, right? And how important that is in life. And we are also, as transformational influencers, individuals that create change in multiple environments. And see, change is often created when you have the courage to speak up and or speak out, especially when you've witnessed some form of injustice, or perhaps you've just observed a more efficient process for accomplishing a goal. See, silence and suppression doesn't necessarily create change so much as it causes frustration to build up in people, right? And that's what sows the seeds for change and ultimately the transformation. True influence is not built on attention. It's built on transformation. In my book, OG Testimony, right? Is French word for two. I share my own journey of transformation when I suffered from glossophobia, which is the fear of public speaking, and a speech impediment for the first 30 plus years of my life, to later becoming an OG, which is an overcomer of glossophobia, and now speaking professionally to hundreds and thousands of people, even becoming a leadership and public speaking coach. You see, that's what helps to solidify me as a transformational influencer. And then with my book, Standing Before Kings, I continue helping others with their own preparation and readiness to embrace those rooms that we've talked about, right? That rooms of influence built on and by transformation. You see, that's who a transformational influencer is. That's the type of things that a transformational influencer does. Now, as many positive things that can be done through influence, I would be totally remiss if I did not also mention the reality of some of its negatives, right? Let's just be real with it. Especially in our modern day society with all its immediate worldwide access that we have. See, there's a potential problem with the modern influence through things like social media fame, right? Which can be temporary and very shallow, very shallow. Then there's things like surface level leadership and influence without character and integrity. See, all those things can be a potential problem. See, our modern day culture has a tendency to teach people to build a platform before they build themselves. But why is this a problem? For many people, specifically in the younger generations, this modern day way of life is all they know. It's all they've ever been exposed to. And many have learned it from those who came before them, aka the us's, right? The parents, the older generation that have allowed things once that were considered and proven to be negative to now become perceived and accepted as the quote unquote norm. We've allowed those things to happen. And the younger generation, they just embraced or followed all that they saw. And we can clearly see how our society, more specifically the youth in our society, are suffering as a result of this. Their physical and mental health, employment opportunities, and an unquenchable thirst for sensationalism. In my book, Standing Before Kings, I talk extensively about preparation and readiness once you're in the rooms of influence. The following quote is from chapter 4, which is called Govern Yourself. On page 50, it says, standing before kings is not proven by entry alone. It is proven by the faithfulness with which you carry what has been entrusted to you. See, influence requires preparation, and preparation can open many, many doors for you. But see, once that door is opened one time, that doesn't mean or always means that it will remain open. If your character doesn't align with what's required within that room, then the doorknob will hit you where the good Lord split you, right? Therefore, the character that you display, that's going to be essential for keeping those doors open, along with the spirit of readiness. See, just as a good character is important, so will be your spirit's ability to remain stable in the high-level rooms of influence. Just imagine you receive an invitation to one of these high-level rooms, right? The ones where decisions shape companies, communities, and sometimes even history itself. You know, the kind that people spend a bulk of their lives, their careers, trying to get into, to sit at those tables. They chase those titles, recognition. They want that kind of influence. But what they're failing to see oftentimes is a truth that most people discover all too late. That access isn't the hardest part. Being ready for the room is. See, that's the hardest part. If and when you are finally standing before kings, what will sustain will not merely be your skill or your gift. It will be your stability. Like anything else you're attempting to build, that you want to have some form of longevity, you need a solid foundation. There are three fundamental foundations of transformation. Three fundamental foundations for transformation: identity, discipline, and character. Identity, discipline, and character. Identity defines who you truly are internally. It's the perfect example of that here's the perfect example for that. For those who enjoy watching professional wrestling, right? I love professional wrestling. In the WWE, there's a character of Samoan descent named Roman Reigns, right? Many of you may have heard of him. His father was one of the original mainstream popular Samoan professional wrestlers whose family had become part of a dynasty. The on-screen character the company was trying so desperately to push just was not connecting with the audience. The way, the talent, and the tools were all there. Right? They wanted it to really, or they were trying to push this character, this big dog character, to the audience, but it just wasn't connecting, right? The way that they wanted it to. Again, he had all the talents, he had all the talent, he has the tools, everything was there, but there was no true buy-in from the audience and even the wrestler himself. But see, after taking a short break, he came back repackaged as, y'all know it, the tribal chief, right? Now, this character truly tapped into who he was internally. He connected with this character 110%, identification match. And that's what helped make the audience buy in 110% as well. And now that character will go down in history as one of the absolute greatest of all time. Why? Because he was truly himself. He was able to tap in to his identity, his true identity, not one that was manufactured. The second foundation is discipline. Daily habits, good or bad, are what shape your future. Por ejemplo, For example, I made the conscious choice to get up every morning between 4 and 4:30 a.m., regardless of what time I went to bed. The wake-up time frame was still going to be the same. Ideally, I would begin winding my day down around between 7 to 7:30 p.m. But on rare occasions, especially whenever I traveled, I don't always get to bed at the ideal time, right? It happens. Nevertheless, I stick to the 4 to 4:30 a.m. starting my day. This is when I'm at my most mental productive time. And I have since then written 3 books. I've written podcast episodes. I've read several books and scriptures. And it's been one of the most rewarding transformations that I've ever been blessed to make. And I've only been doing it for about just a little bit under a year now. But see, it's that discipline. That discipline has helped me be very productive. I recognize what time of the day that I'm really productive in, and I prepare for it. And I try my best not to let anything get in the way of that. Between 4 and 4:30 a.m., I'm up, even on the weekends. And now the third and final discipline is character. And see, character is that trait that sustains influence long term. See, a lot of people don't think long term when it comes to these platforms and rooms that they want. They just think about the rewards that come with it. So they're not really changing their character. They're not really worried about their character or even integrity for that matter. So they want these platforms, but they're not willing to build the character that's required. See, influence without character will most definitely collapse under pressure. Now, let's take that even further, because one of the most powerful expressions of character, especially as it relates to leadership, is something widely misunderstood, that being servant leadership. Servant leadership. In a modern world, leadership is often presented as authority or status or power. But the leaders who truly influence organizations, teams, and communities are those who truly understand a different principle altogether. And that is that influence grows when leaders serve. Influence grows when leaders serve. Servant leadership is not weakness, nor is it passivity. It is the discipline of using influence to elevate others, develop others, and strengthen the mission rather than simply advancing yourself. And see, that's why a lot of people cannot adapt or adhere to a servant leadership type of style because they're too greedy. Let's just call it what it is. They're too greedy. They're too self-centered. They're selfish. They only tend to think about themselves. Now, later in the podcast, we will dedicate an entire episode to the power of servant leadership. Not on this particular episode, but in a future episode, we are going to lean into that topic of servant leadership because it is one of the most misunderstood, I believe, one of the most misunderstood leadership principles in modern culture. Now, another element or another essential element of transformation is having the courage to accept challenges, and especially those that offer forward motion or some form of benefit. So my challenge to you is going to be this: 3 things. All right. Go ahead and get that piece of paper. Go ahead and get your phone app ready so that you can write this challenge down, write these challenges down. 3 challenges. The first one is, what area of your life requires transformation? Right. And you got to be honest with yourself. Right. You got to be willing to expose some things or maybe find out some things about yourself that you're not too fond of. But this is a part of true transformation. So, again, challenge number 1 is, what area of your life requires transformation? Second challenge, what habits must change? Not should change, not probably change, not may change, not I'd like to change. What habits must change? All right. So again, you got to be honest with yourself. That's our second challenge. And our third and final challenge that I have for you is, what room of influence are you preparing for? Now think about how that question is presented. What room of influence are you preparing for? Not what room of influence do you want? Not room of not which or what room of influence are you seeking or been dreaming about? No, it's what room of influence are you preparing for? All right, so that's my 3-point or 3-question challenge to you. Again, number 1, what area of your life requires transformation? Number 2, what habits must change? And number 3, what room of influence are you preparing for? Transformation is the preparation ground for influence. And if you're willing to grow, develop discipline, and refine your character, then one day, hopefully very soon, you may find yourself remaining in rooms you once only dreamed about. And remember, you weren't created to stay low. You weren't designed to stay average. You were built to go higher. Be blessed. Thank you again for joining us on the brand new Go Higher show. I pray you were blessed by the information, the insights, and the challenges that were all shared. For all speaking engagements, public speaking, and leadership coaching, send your requests to gfflifellc@gmail.com. That's gfflifellc@gmail.com. Also, be sure to go on over to Amazon.com and check out the books Standing Before Kings, OG Testimony, The Blue Folder, The Art of Spiritual War, and the original first edition of the OG Testimony Is Not What You Think. All 4 titles now available over on Amazon. The brand new Go Higher show is brought to you by Greater Faith and Favor Life, GFF Life LLC, where the vision is believe greater, live greater. God bless.